Good morning. Thank you everybody for coming today to our Garden and Country Extension webinar series. Today I've got Ann Mottek with me. We're going to be talking about assessing the feasibility of a climate master outreach program. This is also something we're doing for a conference we're going to be putting on at the end of participating in the end of the month in May. And so those of you who are participating with this will be that presentation. Thank you so much for being with us. A little bit about our Gila County Cooperative Extension Garden and Country Extension webinars. It is a weekly Zoom webinar. I do these on Thursdays at 11 in Arizona. They're 60 minutes or less. They feature a variety of horticultural and natural resource topics relevant to the environmental conditions and residential concerns of Gila County, Arizona. I put the recordings at the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension YouTube channel. So you'll find a playlist called Garden and Country Extension, and that's my stuff. And the University of Arizona is an equal opportunity affirmative action institution. And at this time, I'm going to show how we're that institution. I've got a poll to share with you, which is our affirmative action poll. And if you would kindly take the next 30 seconds, I'll take this down in about a minute, and just let us know if you're over 18 or under, which gender you identify with, and your ethnic group. This helps me to share that information with my reporting, and it's just what I need. So I'll just go ahead and put that down, get back into my slides, and keep us moving along here. Our agenda today, we've just had a little bit of login and lag time. Started here at 11. My name is Chris Jones. I'm your moderator. Our topic today is assessing the feasibility of a climate master outreach program with Ann Mottek. We're going to be doing a presentation here that's recorded. But while we're speaking, go ahead and put your questions into the chat box. We'll finish that up and have kind of a live discussion there with the chat. And we'll look to finish up at the top of the hour, so those of us in Arizona could get to lunch. Here is our presenter. This is Ann Mottek. She's a social science and natural resource management researcher of Mottek Consulting, and she's the principal. And so, Ann, it's great to have you here. It's been a lot of fun working on this project with you, and just want to say hi. And how are you today?
Doing great, Chris. Thank you. And thanks everybody for being here. I'm really looking forward to this.
Then where I'm done with that poll, I've turned it off. So let's go ahead and share the screen, and we'll start that. And thanks everybody for being here.
Okay, and can you see that, Chris?
Yes, I can, and I've turned off our
okay,
panel.
Great. And I will start this then.
Excellent.
Good morning. My name is Ann Mottek, and I am pleased to present the Managing for Climate Change Climate Master Outreach and Extension Focus Group Study. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge my co-author, Christopher Jones from University of Arizona Cooperative Extension, and partners Katie Steele and Paul Gutierrez at New Mexico State University.
I don't know why it's doing that. I'm not sure why it's doing that, Chris.
To familiarize you with this research, I first want to outline the purpose, goals, and objectives. The purpose is to increase climate change literacy and to determine best practices and methods in supporting both climate adaptation and mitigation activities for diverse groups and communities. More specifically, results will assist in designing an innovative approach to conducting community-based educational outreach. This will support communities to build capacity to independently plan, initiate, and deliver programs that address climate-centered issues. And finally, the findings have established a regional community-based model that can be replicated in associated communities. Focus groups were held in 2 distinct communities in Gila County, which is in central Arizona, and you can see that on the map on the left-hand side. These communities were selected because they are small, rural, and familiar with and served by University of Arizona Cooperative Extension. These focus group participants represented a potential audience for a Climate Masters program. As you can see, Payson and Globe are located in the northern and southern ends of Gila County. The town of Payson is approximately 19.5 square miles, 90 miles northeast of Phoenix, and about the same distance southwest of Flagstaff. Payson is described as a cool plateau highlands that lies at approximately 5,000 feet in elevation and is a recreational hub for the Mogollon Rim. Payson is surrounded by the Tonto National Forest and lies within a transition vegetative ecotone with low elevation species that include manzanita and pinyon juniper, and high elevation species including ponderosa pine and evergreen oaks. Now switching gears, the town of Globe covers about 18 square miles, a similar geographic size as Payson. Globe is approximately 90 miles east of Phoenix and about the same distance north of Tucson. Globe was established as a mining town that is located in the Cobra Valley at the base of the Pinal Mountains and is approximately 3,500 feet in elevation. Now I'm going to describe the focus group methodology. The UA research team developed instruments or completed the following tasks. We developed a recruitment script and survey, a consent form, planned a recruitment strategy. We recruited focus group participants, developed a focus group protocol, and derived plans to conduct and administer the focus group. During the recruitment process, we administered a survey that collected participants' demographic data, and this also included the SASE, which is the 6 America's Super Short Survey, which I will explain in a following slide. A more detailed methodology is included in the report. The protocol of questions that we asked the focus group respondents covered 7 main sections. First, respondents identified the top main threats or environmental catastrophes that have affected them or their community's well-being. Secondly, as the top environmental issues were identified as the program's content, respondents focused on the associated messaging. The third section of the protocol covered what they envisioned as the top 3 goals and associated outcomes of the program. In the fourth portion, respondents were asked how to measure the impact this program will have on individuals, their community, and on policy. The fifth section involved thinking about competing issues that would prevent them from participating in this program. During the program format section, we asked if Climate Masters is the best way to describe this program, or if there's a better name. This section also covered the ideal formats or learning scenarios, barriers in participating, and how these barriers could be addressed, and incorporating various technologies. The last and final section, Program Sustainability, concentrated on preparing for future changes in the environment and access to natural resources. This captured how the program remains relevant and addresses future issues and solutions. Now I'm going to describe the demographic summary of Payson. Payson is basically a homogeneous small town. The population is characterized by those who are mostly Republican, which is the predominant political affiliation in Gila County. They are mostly senior citizens, white and non-Hispanic, high school graduates with some higher education. Payson residents earn a median income that is approximately $10,000 lower than the national average. They also have a lower per capita income than what is reported nationally, and Payson residents are at the same poverty level as the rest of the country, which is about 12%. As you can see also on the right, the highest age distribution category was between 65 to 74 years old at 20%. And accordingly, here's a demographic summary of Globe. Again, mostly Republican because that's the predominant political affiliation in Gila County. Different from Payson, Globe contains younger adults with children and families. Also differing from Payson, Globe residents are white with a significant number of those who are Hispanic, Latino. Globe residents are high school graduates. They earn a median income that is approximately $13,000 lower than the national median income, so lower than Payson. Globe residents have a substantially lower per capita income than nationally. And in Globe, they're at a higher poverty level, 18%, than the rest of the country, which was 12% at that time. Again, you can see the age distribution table on the right, and you can see the highest percentage, 23%, are under 20. An extensive representative survey called Global Warming 6 Americas was initially conducted by the Yale Program on Climate Change Communication in 2008. The survey of American adults included a broad set of metrics designed to better understand the public's climate change perceptions and what the underlying barriers are to achieving actionable results. Subsequently, 6 audiences were identified and were categorized between distinct levels of engagement within the climate change realm. As you can see in the figure, the continuum ranges from alarmed, which are those who are convinced about the seriousness of global warming and are taking immediate personal actions to address solutions, to dismissive, which are those who deny there is a problem, thus opposing climate action and policy. The original 36-question survey was reduced to 4 questions in 2018. We administered the 4-question SASE survey to all focus group participants during the recruitment process. Although the SASE is a much shorter survey, results still sort respondents into the 6 audience groups who perceive and respond to global warming in different ways. These results can also be used to develop communication messaging and tools for respective groups. And you can see almost 2/3, 64% of the Payson focus group respondents were alarmed. In addition, SASE results revealed how the Payson group compares to Americans across the country. Of the 11 respondents who participated in the Payson focus group, 2/3 were alarmed, compared to just under 1/3 of the nation. Although alarmed and concerned respondents varied widely from the national results, the cautious and disengaged participants more closely resembled national values. None of the participants sorted into doubtful or dismissive categories, in which a small percentage, 10% each, of the American public are represented within these categories. Of the 9 respondents who participated in the Globe focus group, most, 44%, were alarmed, although this was less than those in the Payson focus group, which was 64% who were alarmed. Now I'm going to talk about the focus group. Now I'm going to talk about the focus group results. Although we recruited 12 for each focus group, 11 attended in Payson and 9. Now I'm going to talk about the focus group results. Although we recruited 12 for each focus group, 11 attended in Payson, and 9 in Globe. In considering the main threats, Payson and Globe focus group members commonly identified 5 threats that included wildfires and forest health, flooding, erosion, and peak flows, fluctuations in weather patterns, water quality and quantity, and warming temperatures that lead to melting ice caps and sea level rise. You can also see threats that differ between the groups, like absence of bees, pollutants and toxins, disease in flora and fauna, and emergency preparedness. Here are some highlights from the Payson Focus Group. In discussing messaging that motivates communities to act and provide tangible solutions, focus group participants emphasized how disasters like wildfires personally affect residents. They described this in saying,
water. Everybody needs water. We don't have the water. What do we do about it? So people have to look at their particular situation very seriously and maybe come together with information and then start talking as in groups about, well, what are we going to have to do as a community to solve this issue or to work on this issue? More real buy-in from the locals. Right now, there's no incentive for anybody to have to do these things, except for the people who are paying public service. You know, it's their job, but it's not. It's our job as individuals. And maybe that's the message. You as an individual, what do you have to do about this? Your life is in danger. So some massive groundswell from the bottom. And how do we do that? Well,
yeah. Unfortunately, we don't ever do that until it's mostly there. You know.
when the Payson group discussed programming that is relevant to their community's culture and values, one respondent stated,
really show how being more environmentally aware can save you money. Generally, we have this tendency to think of being environmentally minded as sort of a rich person's game, but it's not. And we have quite a disparity in Payson. We have, based on finances, we have a lot of retired folks that come here and enjoy their retirement, but we have a lot of our population that's in the service industry here, and they're not paid terribly well. And so if we can somehow show some of our people who are a little bit without as much means, how being environmentally aware can save you money, how it can increase your quality of life, how reusing things and recycling things can make your life just that much easier financially. I think that might strike a chord with certainly our younger families, some of the folks that are generally not reached when we talk about environmental issues.
as the Payson group contemplated if they would personally commit to the program, a focus group member stated,
I mean, they all just see where they live. So those are some things. People like to wear a shirt that identifies them with a group. You know, something to show that, hey, you're part of a team. It's that gang member mentality, but in a good way. Just like the military is a gang, but a good gang. And I think that, I mean, and then that they're part of something greater than themselves. And that shows that they're part of something greater than themselves.
That's what I mean about doing your homework.
Yeah.
Find out what it is that people are really, truly consider important up here.
Then as the Payson group focused on learning scenarios and formats, participants found this focus group format amenable to open and honest discussion and debate. In describing this, a participant explained,
Why I think combining what you're doing with the focus group concept allows, because you have to make people understand that you don't have to think like everybody else. You can have an opposing view, but you'll have an opportunity to express it at this time. If people feel like they're going to be listened to instead of sitting back listening, and we got to do a lot of that intercourse where, like I said, I saw a lot of different opinions, but it got, I mean, worked out really well.
In the last section of the discussion, PACEN's participants talked about program sustainability. One respondent stated,
And the science comes in.
Well, I was going to say at that point, a program like this would be invaluable in terms of data collection. If we're going back to these different things and we're constantly have an eye to the future and how are things changing, a program like this would provide ridiculously valuable data on what's happening and what can we extrapolate.
now moving over to Globe focus group highlights. In discussing how climate-based issues became politicized over the years, respondents said,
My concern is lack of political buy-in. We need to take the politics out of the climate. I don't, I go way back on watching this thing happen. And there was no politics years and years ago. I've got textbooks, 1961 in meteorology talking about climate change. And it wasn't until they made a couple of revelations that they actually really was happening. And some accidental studies that found these curves and CO2 and stuff like that, where it was in everybody's face. Scientists had no political agenda. They were just reporting the facts, and how this became a political agenda, because I'll go back to the 70s when I was really involved in energy research and stuff, and how solar energy became political science and stuff like that is this community has to remove politics from making decisions for future generations, and they can't think past their paycheck. Because, you've got a lot of reasons why and stuff like that, but I'm an ex-blue collar worker from way back, and I used to think, I used to look at different issues and stuff like that, but we've become so dumbed down and so authoritarian in our thinking and stuff that you have to have a huge cultural change in this community to do that, because I really love it when it's involved in the education of the kids and stuff like that. But we can't wait for them to get old enough to make a decision, because it's too late already. And so, it's a hard nut to crack, but you have to, when I was a planner, my recommendation was always have articles about planning in the community to show what planning really is. And so you have to get media buy-in on that. And it's not going to sink in overnight. It has to be simple. At the same time, it has to be, like you said, cost benefit in your pocket to show you how it's affecting you and how we're all connected to everything. Transportation system, consumer system is so connected to climate change. It's mind-boggling. And we have to be able to somehow unfold the consciousness of the community.
as Globe participants discuss programming that is relevant to their community's culture and values, they turn to the mining that is occurring in the area. And they said,
Water stewardship, the mine. All the mines got together and started talking about it. Did I agree or disagree? Yes and no, and a lot of different stuff. But the dialogue was there. And I think I'd like to see that dialogue brought up again and again, because the extractive industry in the planet, they all say, it's not like it used to be. We're doing it different. This is how we're doing it. I've been to EIR presentations on different mine projects talking about sustainability and stuff like that. I've been in that work for many, many years, and I have never ever seen it. So I'd like to see them really get involved in helping the community, because once they're gone, this place is going to be totally different in many, many different levels. So we have to prepare for that. They have a responsibility, and they say they do this in other countries, preparing for when they leave. So I'd like to see them start talking about climate change, and we're all.
as Globe respondents pondered framing the program and the program's name, participants discussed whether Climate Master is an optimal name for the program and how the program is best described to reach most residents in the Globe community. In considering Globe's political culture, the group cautioned in selecting language used to describe the program. They provided an example in using adapting to increase drought conditions. They suggested relating adaptable practices, such as selecting native drought-resistant plants, to modifying behaviors that match current weather conditions. Here's a little more of what they had to say.
We found those word adapt better than transform. Because transform is kind of preconceived. You're what? But adapt is you take in information. Like you say, we don't know what 10 years from now, what challenges or could be with corporate structure of certain supplies, you know, but adapt to whatever. It's kind of that's the culture.
Considering the rich qualitative data collected at 2 focus groups held in these distinct rural communities in Arizona, and the potential of conducting future cooperative extension programming, we developed this user's guide. This guide was designed to assist cooperative extension educators and others with the background, knowledge, and tools needed to design a community-based climate master program. The following recommendations encapsulate the program's design and content, the recruitment strategy, the program's delivery, and how to measure program impacts and the sustainability strategy of the program. Collectively, this guide is designed to assist extension professionals and others to develop a novel climate master program. In summary, participants were enthusiastic in initiating an extension-sponsored climate master program. Based on their feedback, this type of programming is welcome and needed. Overall, participants provided valuable insight to assure the program's success. In developing a climate master program in these towns, a first step is to assess and apply respondents' recommendations to program development. In a sense, Payson and Globe could serve as test communities within a climate master pilot project. For extension educators and others who are interested in delivering similar initiatives in other communities, conducting an analogous needs assessment, as was completed for this research, is recommended prior to conceptualizing the program's design. The user's guide serves as a generic development tool that is applicable to other communities served by extension programming. The guide provides a broad model to assist educators across the region to independently plan, initiate, and implement programming that addresses climate-centered issues. As programs are developed and refined, the initial principles contained in the user's guide should be fine-tuned as the broader program matures. If implemented, this program will encourage inspirational benchmarks that exemplify climate resilient living and sustainable agricultural and community development practices that positively impact the environment. For more information and to access the report, user's guide, and other appendices, see this University of Arizona Cooperative Extension website. There's a hyperlink at the bottom of the right corner if you'd like to go there now. We would definitely like to thank the focus group participants for the time that they took to share with us. Further, we'd like to acknowledge the funding and support provided by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and our colleagues at New Mexico State University. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Anne, thank you very much. Appreciate sharing all of that. It was quite a ride doing all of that. It's good to see our colleagues here lined up. So we are going to switch over to our question and answer. Somebody did ask for that webpage with the guide and the report. I'm going to put that into the chat box as Anne is responding to some of the question and answers. So Anne, Rachel asks, or Raquel, what steps are taken to ensure that the focus groups actually represented the thoughts and opinions of their entire town?
That's a really good question. And one thing that we really worked hard to do was to try to vary participants within the towns. Chris, because he knows these communities so well. Like I said, these communities are served by Cooperative Extension. Chris knew their personalities potentially from interacting with them, how they lean politically, their ages, their genders, their interests, where they work. And so we really did put a good effort in to really vary this. So we could get some people that say are lean more conservative, they're more conservative, some that are more liberal, older, younger participants, males, females, etc. So we recruited who we could from our first tier. Some of those folks weren't available from the first tier. So then we moved to a second tier that Chris selected again to try to really get as much of a variety as we could within these focus groups. So we did the best we could. We didn't get every single top tier person couldn't make it, unfortunately.
Right.
And
I would add that everybody who we reached out to is, like you said, they have some contact with Cooperative Extension, with the programming that I've been doing over the years. And yeah, I did create that first tier level, and some people just weren't available when we wanted to do it. They would have liked to have done it, but weren't available. Others just, weren't interested. And then some people just we invited didn't show up. So that was another thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing that I'll say is, one thing to keep in mind with focus groups is that this gives you, it's exploratory. This is more of an exploratory phase of research. And what that means is that you're getting an idea of what the population thinks, but it's not a representative sample. And so we have to keep that in mind, but it gives you an idea of what the population thinks. And then from that kind of data, you can use it to progress into something that is more representative of the population. But for something like this, I think it's what we needed. We got a sense of the community, a sense of what they feel would be good for programming like this. And I think it gives you that broad outline to start from. And then if you were actually implementing the program, then you could really even dive deeper as far as getting more participants and more representative group from these communities.
Good. And there was a comment on having some difficulty listening to some of the audio clips. I know we just did the best we could with that. We feel it makes it interesting to actually hear their voices, and appreciate your kind of sticking through it and trying to get through that echo and hear what they had to say. So just recognize that. Another question here is, let me go to this one. What would be the pros and cons of integrating a Climate Masters program into an existing Master Gardener program in terms of compatibility, delivery, and ability to focus on climate issues for broad social and ecological issues? That might be a question for me.
I think so. I think so, Chris.
Yeah. Kat, what I've done is I make sure that I cover those issues during a Master Gardener training class. They're captive. You can share this. You can take a lot of time to be able to put things into context. I've had Mike Crimmins do a class on climate for each of my Master Gardener classes for several years, if you guys know who Mike is. And I've also put together something I call, when I do my wildfire, my Firewise landscaping presentation, I actually get into climate change and the wildfires that we're having. So I find those opportunities to share it through the Master Gardener program. But I think it's a really good opportunity. I think there's some good pros to doing that, because you've got an audience that is receptive, who likes extension and can move it from there. So I guess we all kind of do that differently. Alicia asks, Have you considered setting this up to be taught outside of Extension? We did that in Florida with some great response so far, mainly as taught by sustainability directors with some help from Extension. So no, we haven't done that. It sounds like a neat idea.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the, especially the user's guide is really like the big summary of really what we got out of this. And I think even though, it's framed through Extension, it really could be any entity could, I think, implement a similar program. And so we designed it, so that others could use this template to really start a program, whether it's Extension or not.
Right. And Sarah May asked, did the needs assessment and focus group work use any already existing programs as examples?
Is that
So well, I guess the focus group, you had a template that's a kind of a standard way to do focus group studies. So you had, but I don't think that's a program. Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
You could unmute maybe and if possible.
Sarah, I'm gonna go ahead and put you as allowed to talk. If you want to unmute yourself, we can understand that question a little better.
Yeah, thanks so much. I was just curious if you had like a type of program, like a climate master in mind, or something that pre-exists somewhere else in the country that you used as a representative example while you were having them answer these questions in the focus group.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, this was something where the way we formulated this research is that it's really starting this program, initiating this program. So we didn't really have a model per se, especially when you think about, Climate Master. That was the initial name. Not that our focus group respondents really agreed with keeping the name as Climate Master, but it is something similar to the Master Gardeners program in the sense that it's a train the trainers kind of program, where you would have people in the community that would learn about the program and could help and train and work with other people in the community. So I think that potentially could be, a model. But like I said, I think the participants weren't real keen on using, climate and climate masters and climate change. They said it's better to, steer away from that kind of name. And when I talked about and showed the slide on adapting and adaptable practices, they said if you can just sort of fold it into something like that, you're adapting, then it might be less politicized than it has been in the past. So I think that could probably be the best example, and I can see if Chris has any other thoughts on that.
Well, what might get to the question is, when we set up the script and the questions and identifying the threat that they see, the opportunities, the type of programs, how did you come up with those questions, Anne?
That was through a lot of the lit review and the background that we had already obtained from New Mexico State University. And it also came from the project design and really the objectives of the study and what we wanted to get out of it. And so, there wasn't any other program that I modeled these questions after. It was more the objectives of this research. And, we went really from there, and some of the background literature as well, reviewing that.
All right, thank you. Dave is asking, earlier extension work has been helped a lot by insights of rural sociologists, Ev Rogers and others, Ari Youssef of sociograms to identify key influentials and legitimators, diffusion processes, etc. Do you think this approach would still be useful? I'm not familiar with Ev Rogers' work. This is in the Q&A, Ann, if you're trying to pull that up.
Oh, okay, maybe I'll look at it, because yeah, I was gonna say, let me look at the chat.
And so Jenny's asking, what activities are the Climate Masters doing in the community? Jenny, I don't have a Climate Masters program. I did do a class that would be kind of a Climate Masters education thing to start to, program to just educate people about climate issues and discussion. But as far as creating a group, we don't have one. So we did the focus group to help guide us in that direction. The group offered many great suggestions and ideas. I find that the best thing I'm going to be able to do is keep it tied in with natural resource issues, and just reality of it's much hotter and drier than it used to be in Arizona. And we are seeing wildfires that didn't used to happen in the desert. Water continues to be a great issue, and just knowing that we're in this context that we've got to come up with solutions. Ann, are you finding that in the Q&A?
No, somehow I'm not. I don't know.
So there's a
why.
chat box and a Q&A.
Oh, Q&A, maybe that's different.
Yeah.
The chat, oh, it's not in the chat?
No, it's
Oh,
not in the
I
chat. It's
see.
in the Q&A.
Oh, that helps. Okay, thank you, Chris.
Okay.
I know, I was like, oh, I'm not seeing it. Okay. So which one is it? 1, 2, 3.
Dave. Yeah. It's
Who's
the third one
name?
down.
Okay. Earlier extension work has been helped a lot by insights of rural sociologists, Ev Rogers and others. I think Ari use of sociograms to identify key influentials and legitimators, diffusion processes, etc. Do you think this approach would still be useful? That would probably be something I'd have to look into. Yeah, I don't know if I could answer that. I'd have to look at that methodology to see. Dave, and I don't know if Dave wants to unmute and maybe clarify that a little bit.
Dave, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm a retired ag economist, used to be in Tennessee, Texas A&M, Iowa State, and overseas in developing countries, raised in New England and retired back. No, it started a line of research back in the 50s, Iowa State, George Beale, Bolin. Ev Rogers was a grad student of theirs, same time I was, and he ended up in California. In your circuits, Clyde Eastman in New Mexico State, he's passed away now, but he picked up on a lot of this approach. And what they would do is do informal surveys to see who influenced whom. And had to do with adoption and practices, but it also had to do with attitudes and why they differed in one place or another. And so they would form kind of sociograms, which would oftentimes, it would not be a formal official or a big shot, but maybe a rather quiet guy with a person with sound judgment who might influence the attitudes of neighbors or people in certain groups. So that was used. So the idea was to try to contact the key influentials first, and not to try to sell them on something, but to kind of explain and get them along. And they in turn, there would be sort of a multiplier effect on that. So that's it's worked overseas a lot too, and so on. Now with urbanizing areas, you have more distinct groups maybe, and maybe more difficult. Social psychology has helped too with social scales. In Tennessee, my first grad student actually, we had to do with small watersheds. And why did people, one part of the watershed for our program of conservation and people another part against it? Well, it turned out that key influentials, the rural ag teacher was influential in one part of the watershed, and he might be against the program, whereas another part of the watershed, the county agent, was for it, so he influenced for it. So this has worked in more recently, and well, at least to a decade or so as a framework, and it may not be in recent literature, but I would think it'd be worth kind of taking a fresh look at in adaptation. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for sharing that. Some of us, this is kind of a new research area, and we appreciate knowing more about that. Okay, jumping back into some of the Q&A. Okay, Eric says, why would Extension not conduct this program? Extension has a huge amount of local trust and credibility, unlike other groups that I know of. And Eric, you're absolutely right. I think that I was able to teach this class similar to a watershed master, or master watershed program, or this. It was well received. I had people across the political spectrum participate in the whole group. I don't know if I changed any ideas, but the only reason why is funding and personnel. So we've got to talk with our extension directors and land grant university directors, and be able to fund and make these types of programs that we can do, at least here in Arizona. I can do it on my own, but I'm on my own. So there are some people going back and forth about getting in touch. That's great, Sarah. So yeah, so I'm just going to let you guys get that done. Eric is well aware of Everett Rogers' diffusion of innovation. Oh yes, diffusion of innovations, new ideas. Yeah. Okay. Appreciate the background stuff going on there. Okay. And so one anonymous question is, have you considered leading a program that could be virtual and open to all of Arizona and beyond? I have not. I noticed that some of my colleagues participating here are doing programs in other states. You know what, Alicia, if you don't mind if I bring you up. Alicia, I know you lead a Climate Smart Floridians program in Florida. You guys are way ahead of what we do in Arizona. And just share some of your thoughts about programming and what might be able to do out in other states, and what you do in your state.
Sure. So we run a climate master program called Climate Smart Floridians here in Florida, and we modeled our program after the University of Oregon's Climate Master program that I don't believe they're running at this time. But one of the ways we set it up, because we were such a small cohort, was we designed a 9-module program that covers individuals' contributions to greenhouse gases and climate change, in addition to an overall climate change education. And, and then what we've done is we've set that up and taught both extension and non-extension folks. And primarily the non-extension folks that we teach are in-county sustainability directors, and folks with those sorts of positions that are looking for a program to offer for their residents. So we partner with them. They do all the registrations. They set up how they would like the program, the days and times, and how they would like the program to run. We lean on them to invite experts, to have expert speakers on different topics. And and what we provide to them, in addition to training them about the different modules, but we do offer as well, we offer a training guide. And in exchange, what we have them do is provide the materials that they put together. So slideshows or other things that they put together. And doing it this way has helped communities not have to start from scratch when they want to offer this. So they can go into our files on Teams and look at what the next city over did. or what a different community did and sort of build on top of what the other communities are doing. Does that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, it sounds like it's very much of a training and network type of effort. And so that people can be learning from each other and replicating those in their states and learning from, their lessons learned.
And just to add one more thing, Chris, people love this program. They love it. People in Florida, I mean, we have communities that have wait lists. They feel if you get you want to do it in a group of ideally 20 or less. And the time you take to do it really creates a cohort of people who really enjoy each other's company. So I would encourage, if you have folks on the line now who are maybe interested in it, I can certainly answer some questions, but it's really valuable to the community to have something like this.
Great. And before I let you go, Alicia, Rachel asked if you started a Climate Masters program, what would you require of your volunteers in the program? So are there any activities that you are requiring the volunteer service? Like you just mentioned some of the networking and program they do. So help me answer that question.
So I haven't required them. We have another program that we sort of leapt off from to do this Climate Master program, which was Sustainable Floridians. And in that program, we had them commit to 35 hours of volunteer work a year. And then we would survey them every year. Now they didn't have to volunteer with Extension, but they just needed to be involved in some community organization volunteering. So that was kind of an easy lift for us.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll go ahead. Annie, you got anything else for her?
Yeah, one thing I was going to add, I think in that last question, I forgot exactly what it was, but I think they talked about technology. And one thing that we really gained from these focus groups is that you really have to be aware of different people's use of technology and familiarity with technology. And most of our focus groups, we did these focus groups pre-COVID, so you got to keep that in mind too. But most of the focus group participants really were enthusiastic about face-to-face interactions and field tours and workshops. And they said you could supplement with online technologies, but they really felt like the face-to-face and actually getting out in the community and doing work is really going to get you there. So I just wanted to add that.
Great. I have a comment from Stacy, and she's saying we may be willing to do a train the trainer course for extension professionals. And I think this is a great idea, Stacy. I did send this out through our National Extension Climate Initiative, where I believe several people were participating today, heard about this. And so several of us participated in the climate change extension workshop last week that Paul LaChapelle and the group put together. I think this is all really ripe, and we need to continue to strike the iron while it's hot. So I think if we were able to set up a train the trainer for extension professionals, I think this is happening at a national level rather than in each state. Some states are further ahead and other states are a little more just not a priority yet, but we are very much, I think, at a climate change communication level. We've got to get better at communicating about it and talking about it. So I really like that idea. Thank you for sharing it. And Dave, thank you for sharing Everett M. Rogers' book, Diffusion of Innovations, 5th edition, 2003. I am familiar with that book. I do not follow it as closely as I should. So thank you. Okay, let's jump back into the chat box. I'm really enjoying today's discussion. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and Chris, one thing I might add about training the trainer and really getting this program going is I really think the user's guide is really, really helpful. It's really the synthesis of these focus groups. And so that would be a really good place to start in developing that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Eric is asking, anyone know anything about a group at Willamette University that trademarked the term Climate Masters? So if anybody knows about the Willamette University group that trademarked Climate Masters, put your hand up. We'll allow you to speak. You can answer that question for us. Amanda said this was very informative. Thank you for providing this webinar. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, Anne. And Oregon also has, Stacy adds, Oregon has a junior climate stewards program. And she put the link for the curriculum right there in the chat box. So cool. And it looks like we're winding down on our questions. So anybody know that answer for Eric, the group out of Willamette? Doesn't look like it, Eric. Then at this time, okay, Kat's adding, thanks. Train the Trainer series out of University of Wisconsin-Madison, Division of Extension Educators from all institutions. These suggestions are most helpful for starting it. Good deal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my closing slides here. We're going to bring this webinar to a close. And before I do that, actually, I'm going to find the evaluation link I put at the very top here and put it down below so you can have a chance. I know most of you are extension educators, so you know this is important to me. Please click on that Google survey. It's only about a minute or two to kind of just say if you learned anything and give me some ideas. So thank you all for that. Here's Anne one more time. Thank you very much, Anne, for today's presentation. Here's that. We just had our Q&A time. And just want to let you know about our next webinar. We have a special edition tomorrow morning, Friday at 8 a.m. in Arizona. Our speaker is the Natural Resource Extension Education Foundation Board, featuring the president, Sandy Smith, Forest Resources Extension Specialist at Pennsylvania State University. And we're going to be talking about the Natural Resources Extension Education Foundation 2021 campaign and how we're going to launch it here. So please join us for that. What that Natural Resources Extension Education does for us, support it and keep our profession strong. So with that, thank you everybody for your time today, and we'll see you at the next workshop program.